The barrel of the gun pressed against Nora Bennett's back was still warm, the lingering heat from the bullet that had just taken someone's life outside. She did not scream. She did not tremble. She just stood still in the small kitchen, her hand still gripping a wooden ladle, while the stranger's breath, sharp and heavy with the stench of gunpowder, brushed against the back of her neck. Outside, the wind howled through the Wyoming range, long and mournful, like the cry of a wounded animal. Inside, there was only silence, thick and suffocating. The only sound was the slow drip of blood hitting the polished wooden floor. "Don't turn around," the man rasped. "And don't scream. I don't want to." He did not finish his sentence before Nora spoke, calm and cold as ice. "You're getting blood on my floor." For 5 years, Nora had lived alone in this cabin among the mountains. 5 years since her husband died in a mining collapse, leaving her with nothing but silence and an empty bed. And now, on a February afternoon in the year 1883, a blood-soaked man stumbled through her door, gun raised, breath smelling of rust and iron. His name was Eli Carter, 29 years old, wanted across 3 territories with a bounty of $800 dead or alive. But Nora did not know that yet. All she knew was the cold steel pressed against her back and the trembling hand gripping her shoulder. When he finally allowed her to turn, she saw his face streaked with dirt, eyes dark with pain and fear. His shoulder was soaked with blood from a wound that had gone clear through. "Sit down," she said. "What?" "Sit down before you collapse. Unless you plan to die standing in a stranger's kitchen." He dropped into the chair, the gun slipping from his fingers onto the floor. Nora turned to the stove, boiled water, poured whiskey, and tore fabric into strips. Her hands moved quickly, confidently, the hands of someone who had stitched torn skin before, though usually on horses, not men. When the whiskey touched his flesh, Eli gritted his teeth, every muscle tense. Nora stayed silent, her eyes unreadable. In that moment, something in her shifted not pity, but recognition. This man, like her, had been alone for far too long. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, voice breaking. Threading the needle, Nora answered softly, "I am not sure." But deep down, she knew. It just was not time to say it aloud. Eli stayed in the old horse stable behind the cabin, the one that had once belonged to Nora's husband. Inside there was only a bed, a small stove, and the smell of dry hay mixed with rust. The place was so quiet, she could hear the wind whistling through the cracks in the walls. For the first 2 days they barely spoke. Eli slept almost constantly, fighting a fever. Nora came by to change his bandages, left water and soup, and walked away without a word. She did not ask who he was, and he did not ask about her. But on the 3rd morning, when Nora opened the door, she found him trying to stand, one hand braced against the wall, his face pale. "What do you think you're doing?" "Checking on my horse." "The horse is fine. You won't be if you keep moving like that." Eli sat back down, frustration flickering across his face. "I can't stand being cooped up." Setting down the breakfast tray, Nora said quietly, "Neither can I, but sometimes we have to if we want to stay alive." He studied her. In the dim light, Eli noticed the faint lines at the corners of her eyes, and the strength of someone long acquainted with loneliness. "How long has your husband been gone?" 5 years. "You never remarried?" Nora gave a dry laugh. "No one's eager to marry a broke, sharp-tongued widow." That afternoon, when his pain eased, Eli went out to the stable. Nora found him brushing the brown mare, his rough hands moving slow and gentle. "She's beautiful," Nora said. "Yeah. Took me half a year's work to buy her. The only thing I truly own." Nora understood that feeling when a person clings to the one thing no one can take away. "Before you became a wanted man, what were you?" she asked. Cowboy, horsebreaker, drifter. Why drift? Because no place ever wanted me to stay. His answer silenced her. She saw in him the same emptiness she had carried for years. And you? Eli asked quietly. Did you love your husband? Nora looked out at the snow-covered fields. I thought I did. Now, maybe I was just afraid of being alone. Their eyes met. In that narrow wooden stall, where warmth slipped through the cracks, two strangers caught a glimpse of themselves in each other. Two souls who belonged nowhere. The next morning, the pale sunlight filtered through fog as Nora mentioned a name Eli had never heard, Sheriff Dalton Reeves. He stops by sometimes, she said, while frying eggs, her tone carefully steady. Says he's checking to make sure I'm safe. Eli noticed her hands tightening at the mention of that man. He's been bothering you? Nora looked down. My husband owed him $40. After Henry died, he thought I should repay him another way. Eli's jaw clenched. Did he touch you? He tried, she replied. I keep a gun within reach every time he visits. I'm not helpless, just tired of being afraid in my own home. Eli lowered his head. If he comes, while I'm still here, you'll do nothing, Nora cut in. I don't want more blood. But they both knew that if it came to that, Eli would not stand by. That afternoon, two bounty hunters appeared. Nora was hanging laundry when they rode up men in wool coats, eyes sharp as blades. Ma'am, have you seen a wounded cowboy riding a brown horse come this way? Just me and my chickens, Nora answered calmly. Mind if we take a look around? No. We have legal authority. Got a warrant? No. Then leave. Behind the stable wall, Eli stood with his finger on the trigger, waiting for Nora's signal. One nod from her, and he would fire. But she didn't. The men glanced at each other, spat into the snow, and rode off. Only after they were gone did Nora realize her legs were shaking. She gripped the clothesline to steady herself. When she returned to the stable, Eli was still there, gun in hand. You could have turned me in. $800 would keep you comfortable for a few years. I know. Then why didn't you? Nora met his eyes. Because I know what it feels like to be hunted. Eli went quiet. Then, horse, he asked. You ever killed anyone? No, but I've wanted to. The air grew heavy. Neither spoke. The wind whispered through the roof. As Nora changed his bandage, her hand brushed his skin warm, rough. He didn't pull away. You're healing, she murmured. Thanks to you. She should have stepped back, but didn't. Her fingers traced the scar. How long have you been alone? All my life. I've been alone for 5 years. Outside, the wind howled wild. Inside the stable, between the smell of disinfectant and wood smoke, something fragile yet dangerous began to grow warm, alive, impossible to smother. Sheriff Dalton Reeves arrived on a grey morning, the stench of whiskey trailing behind him as he stepped onto Nora's porch. Heard there's a fugitive around, he sneered. You need protection, Nora. I'm fine, she said. Fine? You still owe me $40, remember? His hand gripped her arm. Nora hissed. Let go. A widow like you thinks she's too good for me. The door burst open. Eli Carter stood there, gun in hand. She said, Get out. Reeves turned, lips curling. $800 dead or alive. The gunshot cracked through the cold air. Reeves dropped onto the steps, blood blooming across the snow. Silence followed. Only the wind sighed through the pines. That night they buried him in the woods, beneath the snow and darkness. Neither spoke a word. When they returned, Eli said he would leave. Nora did not stop him. This world, she whispered, has no place for people like us. No, They sat by the fire, fingers entwined, surrounded by the chill of the cabin. Outside, snow fell white and endless. Inside, there was only the warmth of two souls who had already crossed the point of no return. The fire in the stove had burned low, casting a soft red glow across Nora's face. In her eyes, Eli saw something both tender and aching, as if she had just found a warmth she thought she'd lost forever. They sat close, hands still clasped. A man once hunted, a woman who had buried her fear for 5 long years. The distance between them vanished. The kiss came suddenly, not gentle, not rational, but to prove they were still alive. That night, they found each other in the fragile warmth of the cabin surrounded by winter. For once, neither was alone. When dawn came, Eli saddled his horse on the porch. "I'll write when I'm safe," he said. Nora nodded. She did not believe him, but she did not stop him either. He rode away, his figure fading into the morning mist. Nora sat on the steps, hand over her heart. A tear fell not for the past, but for the present, because, for the first time in years, she realized her heart was still beating. But as sunlight spread across the snow, a single footprint behind the stable showed Eli had not left alone. A year passed. February 1884. Snow once again blanketed the mountain slopes, as it always did. But Nora Bennett was no longer the woman of winters past. She still raised chickens, still went to the market, still lived in her small wooden house, but her steps were lighter, her eyes no longer hollow. Then one morning, the postman knocked. An envelope with no return address, marked simply, Nora Bennett. Inside was $200 and a letter. "I am in Mexico, under the name Javier Morales. I have honest work now. This is the first money I've earned. If one day you wish to leave that place, come find me in San Miguel de Horcas. I dare not hope, but if you come, I will make sure you are